Hey, it's John Trout here, Cider Blossom Orchard. It is Tuesday evening. It's Wednesday evening. It's June 22nd, I believe, today. And you might be wondering what I'm doing up in the top of this gala tree. It's a task I don't care for a whole lot, one that's got to be done. And it's the task of fruit thinning. About this time, really, I'm late. I like to do this about 3 weeks ago. And I've gotten some trees done, but I wanted to cover a couple on video. And get the flies off of my face. But this is a job, fruit thinning, that's got to be done when you have a pretty good crop set on a tree, such as we do on this gala. You got to go through and kind of spread your fruit out a little bit. It's an opportune time to get in and look for damaged fruit and take those out. And try to space your fruits apart, maybe that much, the length between your thumb and the end of your finger, and spread them out across the tree. If you leave more than two fruits, really, 2 apples in a clump is more than I care for. What you run into when you have doubles growing is you'll get insects right between the apples where they're touching. Leaf rollers love to get in there. Oblique banded leaf roller, I think it is, loves to get in there, and they eat the skin on the apple and makes it unsellable. So if you don't let your apples grow that close together, you won't have that problem. Found that out the hard way. So what I'm doing up here this evening is going through and spreading out the fruit load across the tree. Getting rid of those doubles, certainly no triples. Getting rid of those doubles where I can, I'll miss a few, and then spreading out the rest of the fruit to where, and try to space them, like I said, about that distance apart in the tree where you can. It's always a judgment call. And of course, it's a good time to look for damaged fruit that has insect damage, and we'll look at some of that as I go through this gala here. So let's don't fall off this ladder and have a look up in this tree. So looking up here in the top of this gala tree, this limb's actually above my head, and you can see we've got, what, 5 apples growing within the space of my stretch of my fingers. So somebody's got to go, and more than a one somebody. So I'm going to look at some damaged fruit. You can see a little dimple there. That could be tarnished plant bug damage. Could be puncirculio, but that apple's got to go. He's crowding out. He's not perfect even at this stage. So off he goes. I can see another one over here that might be, oh, there we go. Oh, this is hard to do. That apple probably needs to go, and we'll take him off. And this one here has obviously not been pollinated well. You can see it just fell right off. I'm looking for other damaged fruit up here in the top of this tree. I don't see much. Things look pretty good up here. And from a thinning standpoint, I'm relatively okay with what I see. The apples, I think the late freeze did a nice job of spreading some of the apples out. Even this, where these two obviously aren't my thumb and finger width apart, and you've got one in between up on top, it's a judgment call. A judgment call. A slight blemish here on this gala apple, but I'm going to let these two remain. And this one up here, he's got some damage. You can see, looks like maybe even, that's from wind, maybe even scraped along the tree branch here. And then that's probably fungal in nature, and it doesn't look so bad now. Become August, that likely will become a larger fungal spot. And I'll just twist that apple off. You don't want to pull them and jerk them, you just kind of twist them off. Again, down here, I have more apples than we really want right here in this location. Gala loves to grow apples, which I'm glad of. Here's one probably not going to get as much sunlight. It's on the back side of these apples. It's not going to get a whole lot of sun here on the east side. I'll take him off. I've still got these two. And probably just going to let those go. This guy up here is a little bit misshapen. I'll go ahead and take him out, since I'm going to leave these 4 And again, once these grow, yeah, they're probably going to touch at maturity. These two will touch, these two will touch, these two maybe, maybe not. That's a max load right there on a branch. But you can pull that off. Here's one here that looks like it's got some apple scab. But since it's kind of on its own right here on this branch, I'm going to leave it be. And I'm not going to mess with anything else up top here. This is pretty much the routine throughout the tree. Spreading these apples out. There's one over here that got a blemish. It's not so bad there. These aren't bad blemishes. They're not bad bug bites. The treatment thus far this year has done pretty good, but I'll get rid of that one. If we look at this branch here, I've got a lot of apples right there. So right here on top, that would be a good apple to keep. It would color up real nice being on top, but I don't like that. That in June becomes larger problems in August. So down he goes. This one here, you can see he's growing. We got an apple right here, 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 and here. Let's take him off. That one growing underneath. Apples growing underneath will not color up as well as the ones on top, but these are in the top of the tree. So we're definitely going to see more sunlight than those apples on the bottom of the tree. Go through here and continue pulling off. Okay, here's another fairly good example. We've got 5 apples in the span of about 5 inches, and we can't support all those apples, not even on a gala. So look for damaged fruit. You can see a bit of russeting here on this fruit, so why not get rid of him? This one's growing underneath. He'd be my next candidate to go as long as I don't see any damage on these other apples. When you have a multitude of trees to do, you just can't go through to this degree. You give it a quick glance and go. But I'm going to take out this guy. He's growing underneath. I'll leave 3 right here because we are kind of sparse here in some other areas. Again, I think the freeze did some good for apple thinning for me, which was probably my best case scenario at the time. Thinking, you know, what's this freeze going to do? Am I going to have any apples? Or are they just going to be thinned out pretty good? And it turns out, looks like I just got thinned out pretty good. Here's a damaged apple. And here, not too sure what that is, but it definitely looks like feeding damage from an insect. You can keep that apple. You don't have to pull it off. If it's got room to grow, you don't have to pull it off. Not every apple has to be perfect. And that apple can go into the cider press. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. This could split open and become a fungal issue later on in the summer, at which time you could pull it off and discard it. But you don't have to pull off something like that. I'm more inclined to pull off in a situation like what we've got down here. So you see these doubles. And I'm probably not focusing real well. So you see these doubles. This is the situation that I'm talking that we need to do something about. So if one of them's damaged, get rid of it. If not, the other one, somebody needs to go. So you pull that one off, he needs to go. We've got 3 apples growing out here on the tip of this branch. And I'm gonna take off this one out here on the tip. A lot of times these apples on the tip don't grow with the same vigor. Unless that's not damaged. Unless they sometimes just don't grow with the same vigor being out there on the tip. That's a pretty good looking apple though. Here's another double. Sorry about that. Here's another double. He's out here on the branch tip. Leave this go. We'll likely have insect damage in between the two at some point. So who goes? Take your pick. I'm taking the guy on the bottom. He's out. So I go through the tree and just continue this until I am pleased with my thinning efforts. Fortunately, we got a nice little crop here on this gala tree. Looks like we got some damage here on this. Nope, over here. A little bit of damage there. Go ahead and pull him off. He's in a bit of a crowded spot anyway. Up here, out here on the shoot tip, got 2 apples trying to grow. So we're gonna take him off. That's apple thinning 101, and I've still got more work to do. Didn't wanna continue holding the camera up there in the top of that tree, but I've still got more work to do up there. Okay, I got back up in this tree, and I just wanted to make sure that I made it clear why we thin apples. Number one, a tree can only support so many apples without stunting the growth of the apple. So if you want normal size or even large apples, you've got to thin your tree out accordingly when you have a heavy fruit set. Okay, that's the top reason. Number two, thinning here like now, it's in June. I'm a little bit late. I'd like to have done this early in June. It's late June. Thinning allows you to go through and sort out any damaged apples and get rid of those so they're not taking nutrients away from your prize apples. So you can get rid of bug damaged and diseased apples at this time. Okay, so then number 3 is gonna be pulling away your doubles, your triples. You set mostly 5 apples in a cluster if they all set. But you can't grow that many apples in a cluster. You don't want to grow 3 together. They'll be stunted. You can grow 2 together and get by with that. But a lot of times, as mentioned, I find insect damage. So where you have the room to spread out your apples, take those doubles down to a single and spread those out along the branch. Okay, that's why we thin apples. We can certainly cover this again in a future video, but I just wanted to touch on it this evening while I'm out here doing this work. Here was a mistake that I made because I drug a hose out here and watered my tall spindle trees. My intent is to get a soaker hose out here. The soaker hose was not working. I had to drag hose out here, and I raked it right across one of my beautiful golden delicious tall spindle trees and broke the graft off. So shame on me. That's like, it's disappointing. So we're growing up.